So I went to the podiatrist today. Um, I just got insurance for the first time in like years, and I avoid doctors, okay, but I have insurance, and I thought, okay, I have a plantar's wart on the bottom of my foot. It's only, I'm gonna have to pay half the visit because I chose to get this one kind of insurance where you pay more on each visit, but you don't have to go get a referral, because I think that's stupid. The whole jumping through a million hoops, like going to one doctor to tell you can go to another doctor, and then that doctor wants you to come back and get the results, but this doctor wants you to come back and see how that doctor went. And I just get really like confused and overwhelmed, and I think it's just a big ripoff, especially since from knowing in the past with like being pregnant and having Medicare that, like, say you have a midwife and it costs $10,000 to have a baby. If you pay cash, they're going to charge you $10,000, but then Medicare only pays $6,000. So really what the midwife does is really the actual cost is $6,000, but the midwife had to raise it up to $10,000 for you because Medicare is basically involved in this massive fraud. And so I know how this insurance stuff works. But if the doctor, charges you the same that Medicare pays, then the doctor gets charged with fraud, from my understanding, and it's like a crime for them, but it's not a crime for the insurance company. So I don't like playing these games, right? So I go to the podiatrist today, and there's a guy sitting in the waiting room, and he's talking to the lady at the front, and the poor guy, he's like, look, he has TRICARE. I live in a town with a lot of military, okay? And he says to the lady, look, TRICARE won't pay. Like, TRICARE paid you, but they won't pay this other doctor. And so apparently what happened is the guy he has this other kind of insurance that I have. He has another kind that you have to go get a referral, right? So went to one doctor and got a referral. Went to the podiatrist. For the first visit, the podiatrist didn't do anything except say, come back for an exam. But he only gets 4 visits with his insurance, right? So he comes back for the second visit and gets the actual exam, and the doctor says, hey, go down the hall and see this other third doctor, okay? Not the primary, not the referred podiatrist, but this other third doctor, and let him do something or whatever. I don't know. And then he had to come back for the results. So then he gets, a few months later, the bill, and TRICARE pays the podiatrist who he was referred to, right? And of course paid his primary. But this other third doctor, he's what I like to call a homeless doctor or a transient doctor who probably has too many student loans and doesn't want to pay for the answering service and the practice and all. See, I'm familiar with all this because my husband went to a year of medical school and we were looking into all this. And it's just so ridiculous. It's a racket. It's just a racket. So he's this transient doctor who's probably smart because it's cheaper to visit someone else's office, right? And pay them a little bit. Well, TRICARE is telling this poor man who's just kind of wandering around aimlessly doing what the doctors are telling him, like most Americans, not me, most Americans. And he's like, but TRICARE paid you, but they're telling me that they don't cover me seeing this doctor. But you didn't tell me when I went down the hall that he wasn't in this office, that he was out of another office. I get it if the guy was stupid enough to go down the street to another office, but the guy went down the hall. Like, how is this guy supposed to know that it was a totally different, like, agency guy? He had a different business, and he was just there for the day. So TRICARE is not going to pay this guy. But TRICARE did pay this one podiatrist. And they're saying, we're not paying this guy, it's not covered. This podiatrist shouldn't have sent you somewhere where it's not covered. And he's at the front desk, and she's like, it's out of our hands. This guy that you went to should have checked. But the guy that he went to doesn't even have an office, and he's just there for the day. And so he's stuck with this like $500 bill. And so, of course, I'm the one that breaks the news to him about how insurance companies only pay 60%. So I'm sure that made his day of what he pays. I'm like, yeah, well, you know that if the doctor actually got paid by TRICARE, they would only have to pay like $350, and you're going to pay $500. By the way. And finally, I just told the guy, look, if you fight with them enough, it'll take like 2 years, then eventually they'll just pay it because it costs more for them to deal with you with faxes and phone calls and employees than actually pay it. So this is what I see just in the waiting room. Okay, our medical system is a joke. And I just have a planner's wart, and I'm like, oh man, I really hope that I don't have to go through this. So they call me back, and they like kind of overheard what I was saying, and I was like, look, I wasn't blaming it on you. I told the guy, it's the way insurance companies are. So we get in there and they ask me all these questions and I'm like, what does that have to do with my feet? You know, like, do you have anxiety and depression, and do you have, you know, excuse me, I'm still recovering from getting fogged. Do you have, you know, eczema, or do you have this, or do you have that? And I'm just like, is anyone in your family have hypertension? And I'm like, I hate these questions. Just like the primary doctor that I went to a week ago who referred me to this doctor. See, I thought the primary doctor could remove the wart. So I'm already up to visit number 2 here just to get a freaking wart removed, okay? You know. But anyway, that guy was asking me if I had a gun in the house and all kinds of outlandish questions that were incredibly invasive, and some of them I just left it blank because I knew they're just not even going to look at the paperwork. They're just going to file it. So I'm at the podiatrist, and they're asking me all these questions, and the guy comes in, the doctor. He was funny. He was nice. He injects me with the Novocaine, and they, like, pop it out. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, not to gross you out. But the point is, he starts complaining because I told him about the guy in the lobby because the nurse lady looked really, like, pissed, and I was like, look, I told him, you know, it's just the insurance, blah, blah. And I was like, which one do I have? You know, this one or that one? And he's like, what? I don't know. And I said, I have the one where you don't have to go to a primary to get a referral. And he goes, oh, well, here's what you do. See, you have to pay a $20 copay, and you have to pay half of this visit. So his visit was like $120, and I had to pay $60 or whatever. And he's like, but after $600, there's a cap. So what you need to do is just spend $600, and then you can just go and go and go. And I'm thinking, okay, but why am I just going and going and going? Like, I only have one wart on the bottom of my foot. It's going to be gone. Like, how many visits does this guy want me to have? Then he proceeds to say how expensive it is to drive back and forth to get these referrals. And he starts talking about his boat and how much it costs to park his boat. And I'm thinking, okay, so of course to him it's cool if I just spend $600 on copays, you know, now that the year's more than halfway over, to get some free stuff before the end of the year that's what, probably going to kill me anyway or give me a chronic disease. And I'm just like, wow, he has, you know, he's not in touch with reality. Nice guy though. Anyway, I'm losing track. But here's the kicker. So I'm talking to my kid who's in the room with me, and the doctor leaves, and I was like, how many visits do you think this guy's going to want me to come for? How many? I was like, 2 is my max. I'm not going to come more than 1 more time, but I think that's ridiculous. If they say 3, that's it. I'm out of here. Sure enough, I go to check out, okay? I just had a wart taken off the bottom of my foot. He cauterized it. There's no bleeding, nothing. Like, yeah, there was some Novocaine involved and a little razor blade and a bandage. That's it. And then, like, some actual silver cream, which is ironic because I have Sovereign Silver topical anesthetic and antibiotic gel. But, of course, you know, a doctor will tell you you have to get Silvadene and it's by prescription and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, go to my Amazon store and get Sovereign Silver. They have liquid, they have spray, they have gel. Point being, I go to the front, and she's like, okay, he would like you to come back in 1 week, and then he would like you to come back in 1 month. And I look at her, and I'm like, you know, I actually, and this is after she tells me it's like $63, and I'm like, you know, I'm actually going back to the primary guy in a week because I got all this blood work drawn. And I already told you guys I'll let you know about my thyroid because I've been taking iodine drops. I'm like, why don't I just have him look at it? It's just a wart, you know? Well, he would prefer you come back. And I'm like, you know, how long does it take to get in here with an appointment? She's like, 2 days. And I'm like, how about I just call you if there's a problem? I'll just call you. But really, I think it'll be okay. Well, it is up to you. Ding, 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 ding. And that's what they don't like to tell you. It's up to you. Don't blindly follow this stuff. Oh my gosh. Like, yes, I just took microbiology and I aced it, by the way. So hopefully, like, I don't want to talk out my rear. Hopefully it won't get infected because it's been cauterized anyway. There's no access to a blood flow or whatever, but if it does, then, you know, I'll eat my words. But, there you go. That's the medical system today. My trip to the podiatrist, they want it to turn into 4 visits. And I don't even know about the insurance. For all I know, I could get a mystery bill, you know, for some lab work of what they wanted to do with the wart once they removed it or something. You know what I mean? And I could be in that poor guy's same boat that he's in a month from now. I can't even imagine if I had Obamacare. I guess this is going to be part of Obamacare, but I hope that he has enough money to park his boat this week because I didn't make those 2 other appointments.